Gentlemen, you are very welcome to episode number three of number four. Beg your pardon, I had number three there yesterday recorded. Number four of podcast New Earth Kings. This is the podcast where we're just putting it front and center. That seed that lies within you, whether you've been nurturing it or not, this is where you come. This is the safe space where we just fucking put fire. We fuel that. We nurture that. It's the safe space where incredible dreams, incredible visions. This is the place that we just talk about that unapologetically. And talking about incredible dreams and visions and embodying, living out a wonderful journey as a king in life. I have an extraordinary guest, a great friend of mine, a wonderful human being, Fergus Murtagh. Fergus Murtagh, like the challenge for me is actually to give an introduction that just does the man justice. What Fergus is an emotional trauma therapist. He is the co-founder of the co-connection method. We'll talk about that during the podcast further. What has impressed upon me just since coming to know Fergus, I don't know, about 12 months ago, 18 months ago, is just this voracious appetite, like almost like a beautiful high vibration obsession with peak performance as a human being, with full unapologetic expression as a man, as a human being, and then impacting others with gifting them the same gift of life of fully expressing yourself. Just Fergus has been traveling around the world the last couple of years, effectively hunting down the world's best minds and holding retreats, how to get people to connect with that innermost essence and bring that out powerfully in the world. I could go on for about 10, 15 minutes telling you more stuff about Fergus, but the man himself will just embody it so powerfully that the words aren't needed. Fergus Murtagh, delighted to have you on board today, sir.
Thanks for having me on, Mark. That introduction was phenomenal. I hope I can live up to it.
Absolutely, I've no doubt. I don't invite guys that there's ever going to be a risk of living up to it, and you're definitely in that category. Fergus, look, just jumping straight in, like I was just in preparation for this, going through some of the beautifully profound posts that you're putting out on social media. One jumped out for me, and it's a sort of a personal one. It's just a bit of a humorous memory that I had. You had a post there recently talking about men, and it was within the context of Irish men, but I think it sort of expands a bit more on an international scene also. But at one core part of it, you spoke about the need, like of guys, this sort of the difficulty in like swallowing our pride to sort of say to the world, I need help. And why that really just spoke to me and brought me back is like, I remember, I don't know, I think it could be 13 years ago, going into Eason's Main Street in Limerick. That was my university town, and I needed help. I didn't know it at the time. I wasn't able to say it, to admit it at the time, but I remember going to the mind, body, spirit section and looking down it, and I stood there for about 10 minutes. And there was, what I now know was, it was my first time that my body was feeling this communication from deep within me, which was, I need help. Yet it took me 10 or 15 minutes to even just walk down that aisle. And then from there, I just was looking from a distance at the titles, because what I was looking at and what I was thinking and feeling, I was red in the face. My biggest worry as a man was, fuck, what if my mates come in from college? What if like the football guys come in? What if the guys that I'm out having beers with every night, like, in my college days, like I was the sort of the wild guy, the party guy, the funny guy. What if they see me at the self-help section? And I eventually took out Birds to Fly the Nest, or Flying the Nest, Tony Humphrey's book, and bringing it up to the counter, but feeling an intense feeling of alienation, an intense feeling of that's the last place I wanted to be with that was the last book I wanted to have in my hand, but I knew deep down I needed to read it. So I bought it, got it, and the rest is history, and here I am. But what I'd love to invite you in and get your opinions on is, why is it so difficult for the modern male to actually open up and literally say the words or symbolically say the words, I need help?
Yes. Wow. That was a very loaded question. Wow. Thank you for sharing. Well, I think that the biggest issue with men these days is that there's barely any spaces for them to open up. So there's not many spaces, especially in Ireland. I noticed like a lot of men are very confused. So a lot of men really don't have a benchmark of what's happening in their lives, don't have really role models that step up and be vulnerable for them in their community. And it starts with the person who is going through the issue, but also the people who are outside of that asking the questions. Like, are we asking the questions that allow men to open up? So, for example, I could ask the question like, how are you? And we can give the usual Irish answer of, I'm grand, I'm fine, I'm good. But are we actually wondering how that person is? Or are we just maintaining a status quo of just a greeting? So actually asking a man, how are you feeling? Like, how are you really feeling? I want to know. And it's not just the words, it's the intention behind the words that you care about that man opening up. And I've seen in a lot of different shows and a lot of different movies and stuff over the years that there's very little exposure to conscious men being able to open up like this. So it's not in the public eye that much. Like, how many times have we really seen men be vulnerable, open up, like say, I'm actually feeling angry right now, I'm feeling sad right now. But instead of that, we put up an image, an identity of ourselves that will be liked by other people, but not satisfy our internal self-acceptance. And that is a big issue with men, but most especially with Irish men. I think that Irish men get particularly battered with this type of stuff all the time. I think it comes from the tradition of needing to fulfill maybe their forefathers' different fulfillments and expectations, and it also comes with the way that men are treated. Like even a simple example, like a man being attracted to a girl and going up and talking to a girl might feel that man is just not being himself, not fully accepting himself, and then the girl will just reject him. And this goes all the way back then to mothers. So the way that Irish men would communicate with their mothers would be very like standoffish and kind of, oh, I don't want to hurt their feelings, I don't want them to worry about me. Like all these different cliches and all these parts are just riddled within Irish men's nervous systems. And like the nervous system holds the majority of our behavior anyway. So men might be saying a certain thing, but actually listening, and us as men, as fellow men, as aware men, consciously listening to when Irish men are speaking, not listening to what they say, the words, but the intention behind the words. What is the why behind what they're saying? What is the intention? And like that comes with the tonality, with the body language. So I could say, how are you getting on today? And I could say, I'm grand. And that feels kind of congruent with the way that what I'm saying is in sync with what I'm feeling. But if an Irish man is saying to us, oh, I'm grand, looking down, no eye contact, kind of pulled in with their body, you can kind of notice that something's up. And the statement, I'm grand, becomes then an escape for them men. So it allows you to go, I'm grand, full stop, and we move on. And that's really not acknowledging what's happening within the man, even within anybody. These patterns are within women, within all of us. So being able to notice that these patterns exist and being able to read body language and to be emotionally intelligent of the person in front of you, and even emotionally intelligent with how you're feeling, allows flow to happen. And whether you're in flow, whether the other person's in flow, you can always find a synchronicity together then in your connection patterns.
And what have you found is one of the greatest fears for people, for guys? I'm keeping it sort of within the context of guys. Obviously, it is for guys, but of course, there's a universality. It's human connection. But from a male perspective, what do you find is, one of the greatest barriers for a guy that, has a great intention? He listens to what you're saying. He goes, yeah, actually, I want to listen out for this. I want to be sensitive. I want to practice being, empathizing with my brothers, with the men in my club, with my friends, and listen out for that. But what do you find is the greatest barrier within those guys that have that intention, but sometimes there can be a fear of, but what if? Like, what if I do ask that? What if I'm not able? Like, what are the barriers there standing between the guy with great intentionality and actually acting out powerfully what you're saying?
So a lot of it actually happens with acknowledging what the fear is. So before we speak, there's always a feeling behind it. So before I say anything to you, there's a feeling behind what I'm saying, because I want to get information out. I want to be able to project myself a certain way for you to understand. So for men, a lot of the time, they might come in with fear of rejection, okay? And immediately that starts the self-talk. That's like, oh, what if this happens, as you said? What if this happens? What if they reject me? What if I don't know what to do? All these patterns start playing in their head. But that's not conscious. That's unconsciously fueling their conscious thought, and it's destructive patterns. So a lot of the time, what can combat that is just literally slowing down, is actually just going, wait, I'm just slowing down right now, and I have all these thoughts going on. And actually, there's a technique that I've used in the past, that if I have so much self-talk going on in my head, if I just speak it all out, regardless of if there's somebody there or not, I start to see how ridiculous it all is, and how irrelevant that self-talk actually is, and how much it's not serving me. So a lot of the time I find myself loads of self-talk, and I just say it out. Like, wow, that makes no sense at all. And that allows me to slow down and return back to where the intention is coming from. Like, it can be as simple as well as just literally putting your hand on the area in your body you feel most resistance, and just saying, I'm listening. Because there's so much of us that put on these masks that everything's fine and stuff like that, but our body's going like all over the place and might be shaking. Like, even before I started this podcast, my body was shaking in this part of my body. And I just put my hand there and said, I'm listening. Because there's like a feeling of unworthiness, that I'm not worthy to speak on a podcast. And when I put my hand there and said, I'm listening, then I was able to acknowledge the feeling that was holding me back. And that allows me to speak right now. So that's a very powerful method that I've developed with my good friend. And it's really, really moved a lot of stuff within me.
And that the whole entire ocean of inadequacy, this idea of I am not enough. It's such a topic. Like, I mean, I think it's Marisa Peer, the world famous hypnotherapist from England, but like that's sort of her central move, that we're in an epidemic of I am not enough. Definitely, like, if you look at the suicide rates in Ireland, and I know good friends in New Zealand, etc., of male, just the amount of men committing suicide, and that's obviously front and center. It's just this feeling of I am not enough. But in respect to just talking about, guys engaging with guys, because I believe, and this conversation we're having now about powerful connecting conversation between men, the suicide rate. But it's not just the suicide rate. It's just like men, they mightn't be even close to suicide, but being able to live happy, thriving lives as kings in their own right. It depends on the capacity to connect and deep communication. Are there any other sort of techniques or ideas that you can help sort of guys tap in, that in the middle of that upsurgence of a feeling of inadequacy, or a feeling of, oh shit, can I actually do this, or oh shit, like, what's going to actually come if I unlock, open Pandora's box here with this guy? It could actually be too much. Are there any other ideas, insights to help guys just ground down and hold the space for whatever comes?
Yeah. So what can actually help is just saying how you feel. So just saying, I feel like I'm struggling right now. I feel like I don't know what to say. I feel like I want to say something, but I don't know what to say. I'm stuck in my head. And that's a really good technique, just to say something. Because until we actually voice and put a story, or match the thought with the sensation we're feeling by speaking out, none of it becomes real. And that means that everybody in the room is actually taking responsibility for your insecurity, whether they want to or not. We're unconsciously mirroring each other all the time. And then what happens is that a certain amount of people or within the group might start feeling out of flow themselves. So the person that feels insecure, a lot of the time you can speak how you feel, but also another great technique is literally change the space. Just walk out of the room and just like take a breath and go, I'm just grounding myself right now in what I feel. And then come back into the room. Because I did this at the weekend. I was like, All Ireland football final was on, and I was feeling a lot of tradition type stuff coming up. And I was like, oh gosh, I used to play football and all this stuff. All this self-talk came out. And I noticed that the people in the room were taking responsibility for my feeling because they were starting to not enjoy their experience. And what I did is I literally walked outside and I just said, okay, what's going on with me right now? And once I slowed down and breathe and like I release my own trauma all the time. So I kind of release the insecurities within myself. I've got the techniques to do that. And then once I'm able to do that, it can be as simple as just walking outside and going, I'm listening, like what's going on? I might be struggling right now and that's okay. And then literally walking back into the space can allow you to maybe voice how you're feeling or allow you to just acknowledge and be more in flow in the space. And that's good. That feels better for you because you're listening to yourself, and automatically people within the space are listening because it's always reflexive. This is like, once I connect with myself, I give space for other people to connect with me. I can only listen to others when I listen to myself. Otherwise, I'm just listening from an incongruent place. So allowing ourselves the space to do that really helps us to connect in a new way with the people around us and not allow them to hold responsibility for us, and especially for men, but for everybody. But especially men, because the thing is, in the media today, men are being whacked all the time. It's like men need to talk about their feelings. Men need to be more vulnerable. Men need to do this and da 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 da. And it's like, it's not. See, the thing is, it's not conscious. So I can't tell a man, "Oh, you need to talk up more," because automatically that might make him feel less worthy. Be like, "Oh no, I feel more shame now because I'm not talking." So the solution is not to tell men to speak up more. It's to tell men to just acknowledge how they're feeling. And there's literally just like holding your hand on an area of resistance and just saying, I feel this. It's not as complex as we think. And we might be trying to disconnect men from one another and disconnect men from women throughout the media and throughout different patterns and like with tradition and all these things. But it's like, it's disconnecting us even more by trying to tell men consciously what to do, because men are already being told in society like that men are creepy and like they don't know how to talk to girls and they don't know how to appreciate girls and care for girls, all these things. But actually giving men space to do that, by actually holding space for them to just acknowledge how they feel, would remedy the majority of things. And I don't know in society if that's really what it is wanted, because disconnection could be good for business. So it's like really looking at the full spectrum of it all and noticing ourselves how we're actually doing it for us, like toxic masculinity, all these things. It's like maybe the issue isn't speaking how we feel, maybe it's actually just listening, and that's a feminine trait. So is it actually toxic masculinity, or are we touching on the feminine here? And I use the words masculine and feminine very, very lightly, because I do not mean male and female in this. I literally mean men have feminine traits and they're different to the way that women express their feminine traits. And then men have masculine traits and women have masculine traits. So toxic masculinity is not just affecting men, it's affecting women as well, by saying how they feel and by just acknowledging and expressing that. So that's really great ways that we can start to be more conscious and aware of how we're feeling as men and as everybody in this society.
Yeah, wonderful. And like, excuse me. What seems to come up for me, in your answer is the way to support guys is not by pointing the finger. You need to fix this, even with a great intention. It could be your brother, it could be somebody that you deeply love, and sometimes in those cases, they're the ones we're most attached to, the most to helping. But in that attachment of helping them, it's almost like the undercurrent of what they will pick up is you're trying to fix them. So therefore, it's communicating with, when your full on attention is on them, you're trying to fix them. They're going to feel less adequate, as you mentioned. But it's like in general, by actually just sorting your own shit, you know, just dealing in the moment to moment, in that difficult conversation, by sorting your own stuff, your own, and just acknowledging it, have a laugh about it, open up about it, say, hey, look, like as you were mentioning, it's just, you know, I have no idea what to say here right now. I don't know, but like, let's just take a step forward in this conversation, that it allows the other guy to take the weight off his back of, oh, Jesus, here's Fergus actually trying to help me out. He's feeling tense. He's feeling tense because he's trying to help me. I don't want Fergus to have to, you know, shelve the weight on his shoulders of my shit. You know, whereas if Fergus actually just takes the weight off his shoulders, you're dealing with your stuff. It allows the guy to go, okay, I can relax. Now I can just look at my stuff because Fergus is taking care of his stuff. Mirror neurons in the head are going, well, Fergus is actually dealing with this. He's opening up, he's being vulnerable, and the mirror neurons just kick in and go, I'm safe, I'm okay. I can actually do what this guy is doing. He's leading powerfully. Is that fair enough to say?
It's like taking responsibility for ourselves, and we can only ever speak for ourselves. Like the moment when I point the finger at somebody, there's 3 fingers pointing back at me all the time. And that's literally, if I'm saying you're annoying me, then are you actually annoying me, or do I just feel annoyed in your presence? So what's true is I feel annoyed, not that you're annoying me, because that person might actually just be expressing themselves. So taking responsibility for our own feelings and how we actually feel allows us to match our stories with our sensations and immediately start to feel in flow again. So like, even I had an example, like the other day, I was speaking to somebody and I was on the phone for a long time in this guy's house. And I was on for like 2 hours. I was talking like bang, 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 woo, woo, woo. And I came off the phone, and the guy's house, I went and talked to him, and he started to immediately go, oh, you didn't do this and you didn't do this and all this stuff. And I was like, whoa. What's actually happening right now? And immediately I go like I just want to tune in with how you're feeling right now. Because I was feeling very in flow, because all the things he was saying, I tuned in and I was like, is this true for me, what he's saying? And it felt like a no. So I immediately asked him, how are you feeling? And once I done that with Empathy, I actually sat down, and then he sat down as well. By my body language, I was listening. And then he was able to say, you know, I'm actually feeling like you came over here to spend time with me, and then you went on the phone, and I don't feel like we're connecting. And immediately then, everything started to get better. And I go, okay, I understand now what you're saying. And I wasn't aware of that, and now I am. Because if I kept going with the same conversation, it would have went into it would have been hyped up, because the signals get stronger and stronger when we don't acknowledge them. And then it might have turned into a big angry argument, might have got fisticuffs. I don't know, I'm not usually into that. But literally when I was able to slow down, and when that person was able to slow down and know that he's being seen and know that he's being listened to, then that gave the space for him to open up and say how he actually was feeling. And then we were able to move through it, acknowledge that feeling, and then go back to being in flow again.
I'm getting the idea that actually one question I had coming in was, you know, could you enlighten myself and guys listening in, what is emotional trauma therapy about? But I sort of have this intuitive feeling that you're just describing emotional trauma therapy. But could in case I'm making false false conclusions within my own mind, would you mind just slowing down and just like, what is emotional trauma therapy about?
So for me, emotional trauma therapy is literally being able to have the emotional intelligence to acknowledge what feeling is going on within us and bring awareness to it. So I have a certain feeling that's driving what I'm saying right now, and I can acknowledge that feeling. But really, I'm articulating the feeling that I'm saying to you. Okay? So for me, trauma is a spectrum. And a lot of the time in the way that it's used these days is that trauma is like a big traumatic event, like maybe a car crash, maybe like breaking your leg and all these things, which is why I use alternative words a lot to describe it. So for me, trauma is like insecurity, issues, problems, whatever spectrum you want to use. But it's literally an unacknowledged feeling that is preventing you from moving forward and being in flow in your life. So it's literally when our nervous systems cannot process the information coming in through our sensory systems, that creates overactive trauma within us, and stress. So stress is just an alternative word for trauma. So whenever I say I'm stressed, I feel when the person says that, I'm traumatized. But what happens is that we label what we have as just trauma as a spectrum. Just say, oh, how are you feeling? I'm feeling stressed. Full stop. Stops further inquiry. But I dive deep into every single part of that statement to actually find out what's happening. So, for example, somebody says to me, I'm feeling stressed right now. I go, okay, what do you mean? What do you mean by stress? Like, what spectrum are you talking about? And they go, oh, just like stressed about my job. And then I go, okay, what happened in your job that you're stressed about? And then they get like, because you're breaking down the stories. Because we use these limiting beliefs all the time and limiting statements like, I'm stressed, because we actually want to use it as an escape. Because our brains are very sophisticated to be able to just escape and survive different instances and situations. So we always say like these sweep statements, and actually diving deep into that person might actually find that he has a fear of being rejected by his boss, that he doesn't actually want to get fired. And he feels really afraid because somebody in his job feels that he is bullying them, and now he feels really stressed by that. So that's way more of a feeling that's acknowledged and a story that makes sense for that person, rather than just saying I'm stressed, because that literally does not move anything. By saying I'm stressed, it literally just, I may as well just say I feel happy, the same type of thing. But what does that actually mean? What is deep down what the feeling is? And it's only when this is how trauma moves. It's only when we find the story that matches the sensation or the thought that matches the feeling that it allows that pattern to move. So any limiting diagnosis or anything that we have these days, even like I have anxiety, like, how do you have it? So like, do you have it right now? No. Okay. So I imagine that you feel anxious sometimes. Yes. Okay. So when do you feel anxious? I feel anxious when I talk to girls. Okay. Have you talked to girls before? Yeah. Okay. So you're not anxious when you talk to girls. What girls are you anxious when you talk to? Girls I'm attracted to. Okay. Now you've moved from I have anxiety to I'm afraid to talk to girls I'm attracted to. And that's something that can be actioned on. That's something that can be moved, versus a limiting statement that we use to escape. So that is a lot of the time what I define as trauma and as unacknowledged feelings. And I'm noticing them all the time within myself, within other people. And literally the only reason why I feel that I can do this work is because I've done it myself. I've been there. Like, I've been in the anxiety states. I've been in the depressed states. I've been in the fear of not being able to talk to girls and all these things. And that's the only reason why I'm able to empathize with other people, is because I can only go as deep with others that I can go with myself. And that gives me a lot of power. I feel like I can understand the person in front of me, and I go, I understand what you're going through. And that person just allows the barriers to come down, and they're just open then after that, because they can acknowledge that I have been through this.
Yeah. Fergus, what comes up for me that seems unique about it, again, I don't want to make assumptions, but like from what you're saying about emotional trauma therapy and releasing that trauma, it's like, okay, you're stressed. Well, why are you stressed? Job. What's it about the job? Boss. What's it about the boss? Rejection. It's sort of like a present moment story. The manifestation of course, there's limiting beliefs, and it happened in childhood, but it's in the moment. And why I sort of query this is, when I talk with different guys, and sometimes guys have went to different type of therapies, call them talking therapies, but they don't tend to respond well or want to go into therapies that they believe is just the sole purpose is digging up shit from the past. You know, that time when you were a 4-year-old and your mother hit you a slap and in front of your mates at the birthday party. That time when your dad, he had an alcoholic rage and whatever. He, you know, all the past stuff. Guys, and this is not a generalized statement, some guys will really like that sort of approach, but what I find chatting with guys is sort of, yeah, keep me in the present moment. I am actually forward looking. Definitely I'm open up to solutions here and now. My shit, my stuff, now going forward. Is that reflective of the emotional trauma therapeutic process as sort of present moment looking forward, or what role does the past play in that healing process?
So constantly when we're speaking, we're drawing on past experiences and we're bringing them to the present moment to be able to articulate ourselves. Like, it's acknowledging that whatever's happening right now. So right now I have my feet on the floor. Right now I'm talking on a camera. Right now my lips are moving and things are happening. That immediately puts me into presence. That allows me immediately to relax. So the role that past plays in this goes in many different layers. So it can be literally your life, that what I'm saying could be fueled by something that I've experienced in the past that just is not serving me anymore. Like, and to be able to be aware of that, that's what I allow people to open up and do. Because it can be as deep as like a previous relationship, right? I might think that the reason why I can't talk to a girl right now or get in another relationship is because I had a toxic relationship in the past where I wasn't treated well, I felt unworthy, and all these things happened. That might actually be preventing me from moving forward and attracting even that girl in my life. So what a statement I use all the time is, how you feel about yourself is how the world feels about you. So when we're able to acknowledge the past, and even there's trauma in the future, like even if I envisage myself moving a year from now and I have worries about making money in the future, that can be just as much an emotional pattern that's not serving me. That can be just embedded in my nervous system. So the role of the past plays like, how has this been manifested in my life? How has this been manifested in my relationships? All these questions. And also, what's even deeper than this is, when I say I'm feeling this, is it me or is it intergenerational? And this is the next layer of like, that is so crucial, because literally I am my parents until I make the decision that I'm not. And that's a really unconscious decision that's made. So diving into family constellations and different things like this, like intergenerational trauma, is so fascinating to me, because when people play out the same patterns that their parents play out, like even patterns such as, okay, I've got an abusive relationship because maybe my father has abused my mother and I keep attracting these relationships. So is that actually healthy for you? Do you want that in your life? It's like, no. So how do you move that? You go back and find the root cause and acknowledge that feeling that happened within your parents and the intergenerational part of you. And even it can go as deep as your parents can go into grandparents, can go into great-grandparents. And it's deciding whether that story is serving me right now. So going back to these parts of us, acknowledging them and finding the root cause. And then literally once we find the root cause, it's like the nervous system is aware, accepts, and just lets go of the pattern. Go, wait, that's not me. And then an amazing thing happens in that once it's acknowledged and moved, a lot of the time I say to my clients, I go like, you walk over there, you just like have a walk down there, and they just walk, and her whole body is cracking. The whole nervous system is changing because the body is holding the patterns. Like people with depression, a lot of the time it's noticeable patterns. Shoulders are rounded, heads down, looking at the ground, like, and that's causing huge issues, like physically throughout the body, like sensation wise, like we can have a pain in our necks and all these things. And this is because like our lungs will hold sadness. So if we have unacknowledged sadness, our lungs will take the brunt of it. If our conscious can't process it in the moment, so our lungs will cave in like this to take responsibility for the sadness. And a lot of times I actually see that if I move somebody's shoulders back, they might start crying immediately because the sadness is being released. But then providing a stimulus to the certain area of the body can actually allow it to be released too. And then their head starts to move up, and that's why their body starts to crack, because it no longer holds on to this pattern because it's been acknowledged and let go. And moving through that within accepting all the stuff that's happened within your own life, within your parents' life, you can be healing yourself, but you can also be healing your relationship with your parents, which is so amazing. Like, I've done so much intergenerational work on myself that every time I come home to my home now, I'm literally seeing that I'm relating with my parents differently. And it's not because I want to separate from my parents more. It actually allows me to appreciate them more, because I'm seeing the parts of them that they were literally just doing all they can to cope. And that's fueling my past, and it's fueled their past patterns all the time. And being able to just be aware of that is so revolutionary for like this society, is so revolutionary for world leaders to be like, maybe they're not even maybe the destructive patterns that they're playing out, even the Brazilian prime minister right now, like burning down trees and stuff, that might not even be him. That could be issues that he had with his mother. That's basically unacknowledged feelings and sensations. And becoming aware of that gives you so much power. And like we have the information about this now. Our parents and our like people that have gone before us have not had this, and we have the information now. And it's up to us to become aware and attract and literally become emotionally intelligent, so we can move this not just for ourselves, but for our children, for our children's children, and to make just a much better world for ourselves.
Yeah, beautiful. It's you know, when you bring all of that up about the intergenerational stuff, I still remember family constellations, Constellazione, the familiari. I did in Italy. Oh God, I think it could be 6 years ago. But it was one of the most transformative experiences I've ever had, and like definitely took me down out of my head the stories into the embodied stories. You know what you can articulate so beautifully now of just how these traumas remain within the body, how these stories are alive in the body. I remember one thing that they did that I think is like the one thing that I've taken with me. They got my, just for a little bit of background, rough background to give an idea to people listening in, family constellations. It's an embodied healing process where effectively you choose different people in the room to act out family members. And then it's just those people, I'm going to give a very crude sort of a rough idea. Those people sort of embody you place them in a position, and like you could have 3, 4, 5, 6 different family members. And those people who effectively are strangers, most will be strangers, they mightn't know intimately your family story, but they will just report how they feel, and then they will sort of reshift and align in the space to how they would feel best to go. And some will alienate, some will come closer. And it's a process of just emerging from what they're feeling. Like these people that are strangers, mostly strangers, no idea, but what they're reporting back. And eventually you step in nearing the end of the process to sort of come to a healing conclusion of intergenerational trauma. Now, I know at the time, Matilda had went to the information night and she explained that to me, and it made no sense at all whatsoever to me. She explained it sort of like that. So it's like one of these experiential ones. So, but I just sort of give a little bit of a background there to give an idea what we're talking about. But in that healing weekend, the facilitators lined me up, and there was the different guys, there was the representations of the generations. I was there, and then I think it was like 2 people in front of me. They represented my kids and generations after me, and then 2, 3, 4 people behind me, and they were the generations obviously that have come behind me. And they made the point, which was, you're facing in the right direction now, Mark. I was facing the next generations coming after me, my kids, their kids, etc., etc. It's like, now you're in the power of influence. Now you're in the correct emotional, spiritual flow of the universe. You know, you can influence yourself and those coming afterwards, but we break the flow, we clog the pipes when we turn around and we try to liberate our dads from their pain. And I remember that was such an incredible insight for me personally at the time, because so much of my story at that time was loaded with, just my parents, they're heroes for me. They're still married after, I think it was 40 years, just the other week, 40 years together. And like, what an achievement. I think it's heroic. Yet there's a load of sort of stories of his struggle to be an empowered man and set boundaries and learn to flourish in his own masculine king archetype and full expression in the world. And I remember there was such a loaded story within my mind and my body as to how that I felt hurt as a result of that. So it was like a big portion of my mind was, how can I help dad out? How can I help dad? It's like an underlying current of, how could I liberate my dad so effectively then I can feel free? Yet that wasn't working. And that was drying up my energy, my love in the moment, where, as you say, it's like, since that process, I've just started focusing on me, my expression, my trauma, my story, my love. And I actually, from there, eventually, soon after that, I just started expressing love to my dad every single time I say him. I said, Dad, I love you. And like, he hasn't expressed yet, and he might never express, but his tears up in his eyes every single time when I hug him like that. And he nearly breaks me in two with the hug he gives me. It's like, his generation, his sort of 4, 5, 6, 1,000 generations in that hug, it's just been given, but it's just liberated, and I think that's the thing that I know from my experience, and what, just reflecting back what you're saying to the guys out there, is like, do your work, free yourself, so that the people coming after you, you have a massive influence. You have the influence of the next 100 generations if you focus on you. Is that a fair enough perspective, Fergus?
Yeah, Anne-Marie, wow, thank you for sharing that. That was really powerful. Wow, I can feel it in my heart. Yeah, I think that being able to heal ourselves just automatically heals our next generations, but also the people around us. Like, if we're we can only ever be an example for others. Like, we can never advise somebody what way to be, because the minute I say to somebody like, oh, you should go to the gym, they're just like, their conscious might go, oh, it's a good idea, but their unconscious going, why are you telling me what to do and telling me how I'm supposed to feel? So it's for them to make the decision themselves. That's why I never go to anybody, oh, you need coaching, you need therapy and all this stuff, because they ultimately make the decision. It's their lives, it's their openness, and it's their choice. And like even with the parent stuff that you're saying, it's like being able, you've seen that you're able to appreciate your father so much more because you moved that stuff within you. And he could probably feel that you were being healed. And the thing is, it's a continuous process. This is always happening. Like, I myself, I'm constantly going through stuff all the time, just happening. Just I tried to host a workshop like 4 weeks ago. It took me like a year to feel like I was worthy enough to do that, because I had to move through so much stuff, and like Irish culture and my parents and all this stuff. So it's a continuous process. And what's one of the best quotes I've ever heard is that if anybody thinks that they feel enlightened, then spend a day with your parents and then see how enlightened you are. Because
I think it was, if I remember well, I remember reading that. I think it was Ram Dass.
yeah.
But I remember, it's funny you say that, because I in my university days in Limerick, I was reading the New Earth. I started reading the New Earth, Eckhart Tolle, if anybody knows about it. It's fucking like one of two of the most impactful books I've ever read. And I thought I was fucking like a Zen monk. I thought I was in the zone. I was like, I was liberated. Like, not since Jesus, not since Buddha. I was fucking floating around, present moments. No, there's no past, there's no future. Oh yes, indeed. I tried walking across the Shannon. I surprisingly I just tested it out. So I wasn't quite at that level, but I had a pretty freaking high opinion of where I felt it was at.
Yeah.
That was in Limerick. That was in my bubble. That was in my, that was in my zone where, I controlled who I chatted with, what I did. But then Marky Mark went home. And then it came flooding out. Yeah, you're not so Dalai Lama like just yet. Definitely deep down, I always have been, and everybody is. But at that point of realization, I had a long way to go.
Yeah, that's like sometimes I see some of like spiritual teachers, and they all do great work. Like I really love the work they do, but sometimes it's like to get to this enlightened Zen place. But it's like, what happens now? It's like, okay, you're in this space, great. What happens now? And that's something that I love to push in the way that I work with people as well. It's like, that's the transcendence stage that I use. It's like, okay, you feel like this right now. So you feel like anything's possible. Yeah. Okay. Start a business and start making money, or start talking to that girl you always want to talk to. Start manifesting those opportunities you want. Jump out of a plane. Do something. Because once you get in that state, you literally have anything's possible. So you're in that space to just do it and manifest whatever you want in that moment. And you might start see the synchronicities and all these things start happening for you. You see that, wow, life is happening for me. But it's not settling in that space. And of course, we can slow down and stay in that relaxed space and do meditation and stuff like this. But if there's no action, there's nothing to compare it against, and nothing that moves us on to the next stage. So whenever we're moving on to the next stage, there's always resistance. So just staying where we are we're more likely to go backwards than forwards. And that's literally when the moment is that we can move in that way. And like it happens a lot with social anxiety. Like I had this, like social anxiety was completely like this about 3 years ago would be terrifying for me. I'd be like, oh, I'm just going to talk right now, and I don't know if anybody's looking at me. But that's the way
there's lots of people looking at you, Fergus. There will be millions looking at you.
And like for somebody to move, the reason why I'm socially anxious was because I was neglected as a child and all these things. And once I acknowledge that, and I work with people who do this, then I literally go to somebody, okay, pattern's gone now, okay, we haven't moved, right? It's like there should be no resistance now to doing anything social. So I literally walk outside with them and go, start clapping on the street. Just start clapping on the street, okay? Start instilling the new patterns within yourself. Because then they start to see that, wait, I get a different reaction from every single person that I clap. Like somebody will go, yeah, I clap as well. Somebody will go, why are you clapping? And it's literally like people automatically have different reactions. People are all different. So we're not going to be accepting everybody. Of course not. But being able for their nervous system to feel this versus me telling them to do it allows the new pattern to be instilled. Like there's people who are literally doing trauma work just by action. Like there's guys that run like simple pickup and things like this with trying to talk to girls and stuff. And how do they break through their patterns and emotional insecurities? They literally go up, talk to a girl, they get rejected, and they're like, oh, but what do they do? On to the next one. Start talking to another one. Go and talk to another one. And then their nervous system is constantly starting to break down the patterns of like, why wasn't I able to talk to that person? What did I do wrong? What can I improve? Okay, now next one. And that's action all the time.
Yeah, what comes up for me, and it's like what I did sort of motivation speaking, mindset classes before, and what I reminded people of is like, I sort of asked them, what have you achieved in your life that took incredible levels of persistence, incredible levels of dedication, incredible levels of focus to get you to the point at which you can do an activity at pretty much a world-class level, a level at which, you've mastered it. Very few people would sort of say, yeah, me, very few people. And I just provocatively saying, well, I pretty much know that, when you walked in, you've all done that and achieved that, and I can be quite confident about it. And they're just looking at me. It's like, the clue is in my statement. I just saw you walking in, and I knew that you have mastered this. And if you think, what you're after describing there is it's just like, as children, how we engage with learning how to walk. I mean, just trial, error, trial, error, trial, error, trial, error, like failure, success. When we're back at that point, there's no distinction between, winning and learning. It's just freaking living. It's just in the moment. It's just like, what's the aim? Mobilizing this spiritual powerhouse of a human being around the world. Hoo-yah. And I'm not going to stop till I do that. And like, we all do it. And then anybody listening, obviously that may be, that unique situation of maybe they didn't have the ability to learn how to walk because of some issues that they had. Holy shit, what you've had to get through to mobilize and what you've had to learn, that unstoppability is there tenfold, 100-fold. So every single human being that is mobilizing and throughout life from infancy to now, we've done that. So like what you're saying is like, just do that now as an adult. Just take that spirit of a child and just fucking like unstoppably jump into action.
Yeah. And that's the distinction. That's the, like, we can take action, of course, and then it's like to be able to become aware of our emotional intelligence allows us to acknowledge and then take action. Because sometimes motivation can become, okay, I need to be this to overcome this. Like I need to do this to be that, or I need this car to be that. But a lot of the time we can feel it. We can feel enough right now. Whatever's happening right now in this moment, like, I fully accept myself right now in this moment, and that allows me to take action. Taking action sometimes from an incongruent place can mean that we're climbing up a ladder that's going up the wrong house, that's going down the wrong path. So we can be climbing really fast, like, yeah, I'm gonna get there, it's gonna be great. And then you get to the top and you realize, I'm not even where I want to be. Nothing's actually better at all. So when we're able to slow down and just go, is every part of this step right for me? Does it feel congruent for me to keep going down this path? Do I have the people around me that are making me and that are empowering me to do this? Like, looking at all aspects. Is my diet in the correct place? Is my lifestyle, is my fitness in the right place? Do I feel like I'm healthy? All these different parts, that allows you to take action from a powerful place, because sometimes people run to the top and then they can get there and realize that they made loads of money, but they're unfulfilled. Like, you see a lot, like, even I listen to a lot of like conscious rappers and things like this. They're all saying like that I'm a lonely man in a fast car, and like I've got so much money, but I don't have a clue what to do with it because I don't know what I like. So like that's what I find a lot of power in myself, is that, like, I have the tools now, and I'm so grateful to have the tools to be able to, like, fully accept, and when I don't, I can go forward to fully accept again, and then move to the place that I feel best in, because I'm here to make my life awesome. I'm here to make my life great, the best that I can make it. And the people around me, when I do that, I can maybe empower them to do the same. And that's really what my intention is. I feel like kind of emotional about this, but when I find that spark in people, like that thing that makes them come alive, I'm just like, yeah, more, come on, up, because their whole body just opens. And like, I'm skilled at like being able to talk to people and bring that out of them. It's like, oh, I don't know what to do in my life. Okay, what did you do yesterday that felt like you had fun with? When did you have most fun this week? Oh, I went to an improv class. Okay, start talking about that. Do you like movies? Yeah. Okay. And then just like the whole body starts to come up and open. And that's like me going, wow, you're feeling empowered yourself, and you're living out a passion, and you're talking about something that you love, which is automatically making me feel better, which is making me feel more in flow. So when there's more people in the world that can do this, then I have a better time, they have a better time. We just like run to the bank. It feels great.
I'm really loving that, and I just want to sort of tread in a little bit of a chat we had before jumping on the podcast recording. But like, you're the living embodiment of this, and I know embodiment, from what you're saying now and from previous things, is what I admire so much and want to emulate so much when I connect with you, Fergus. But like, you're definitely the living embodiment of this, because recently you went from quite a number of years, jumping in at the deep end and embodying it, and doing all these practices and connecting with your higher self. But it's quite recently where this incredible dream, this incredible vision of doing what you're saying there, like just your incredible gift is connecting people with that inner essence, with that fun aspect, with that gift that they're going to bring to the world. But you've made that jump recently where, the comfort of that, call it 9 to 5, that job, that's the cash coming in, you made a major break from that. I want to acknowledge that, but why I want to bring that in is, what was it that made that possible in the end? Like, I know from speaking with you a year ago, like whatever number of months ago, you were quite clear on that. You had quite an idea, the seed within you, you sort of knew it. What was the final piece of that jigsaw that just allowed you go from that reality of knowing what the seed was to crossing that bridge into the new reality, far side of the Grand Canyon, and going, fuck it, this is just who I am?
I'll say it boils down to one word, which is actually trust. So it's trusting myself that I can do this full time. And like, I give people a background. I was working in like corporate jobs, and like I've just finished last Friday. It's just over now, and I'm like fully starting to embody it all the time, because I never found like I was getting the like reaction or response that I wanted. Like even in my therapy, in the way I was hosting workshops and retreats, until I made that decision. Because it's like the universe, or whatever you want to call it, like God or my higher self, was literally saying to me, well, if you're not embodying this fully, then I can't give you anything. And it's only when I did that and I jumped off and said, okay, I'm like going to let go of all this, and about the financial worries and all this stuff. It's like, I'm just going to do it, because it's like, I will do this even if I get no money for the first 6 months to a year. I still trust that I can do this, and I trust that I can help people in their lives, and I trust that I can help myself and have the best life possible for me. So that allows me to be exposed to all the tools and all the people that I need to help me to do that. And you've been a huge part of that, Mark, in my life. Like, I don't know if I worked with Mark, and Mark was like instrumental in going like, Fergus, you're just like underselling yourself. You're just like, you have this like self-worth thing of like, you don't feel you're good enough to do it. And he was like, what do you, like, look at the value that you give people. How is that not worth this amount? Or how, like, changing people's lives, how can you not like embody that fully and do it all the time? Because that's literally why you're here. And it was out of scarcity then that I continued to go to that job, continued to get that money. But I was literally spending like 8 hours a day in that job, but I wasn't even doing the job. I was literally working on my website for coaching, working on videos for future, setting up retreats and all this stuff. This is what I was doing in my job, and none of it would ever happen, and nobody ever noticed. Because
I just want to note that if your former employer is actually listening into the podcast, look, and I take no responsibility for you not turning up to your job. He's a spiritual maverick. I clean myself of all legal responsibility there.
Yeah, that's so good. Disclaimers are always good.
Disclaimer: Fergus Murtagh was not working as a heart surgeon. Just
yeah. Please don't try this at home.
Yeah. Air traffic controllers, just please, just come talk with us. Fucking, sort your shit out, but do your job well, okay?
Yeah. And that's the thing, is like, some people in that job are in flow doing that, and that's fine. It's like, it just wasn't for me. That's perfectly okay. And it's like, I was talking to my friend Miles like many times and saying like, okay, so I'm in this job right now. What can I learn from it? And what I started to learn was, I learned about disconnection. And I was learning how disconnected people in offices actually are in that space. So I'm so grateful for it, because I've got a great spectrum now of the behavior that goes on in these offices. And this is the majority of people in Western society working in office, work in these types of environments. So I've got a great understanding now, and I can empathize a lot more with these people because I've been there. I'm like, okay, I know what's going on. I know all the intricacies of what you might be feeling. And like, within offices, the whole culture can be changed as well. Like, spaces can be set up for people to connect, and like different workshops and all these things can happen. And like, it is happening right now, but it's like maybe not fast enough, and maybe not with the conscious level that's needed. But for me, it's like, I've moved from that place, and now I'm trusting myself fully. And a guy said to me recently, he goes, this is the last job you're ever going to have. He's like, this is the last job you're ever going to be doing. And I was like, okay. And I started to believe that. And it's literally right now, I'll do whatever it takes to not get that job again, which means that I'll go even more all in than what I was going in what I'm doing.
Fergus, there may be different guys listening in, and like I hold my hand up in the sense of, I know my own psyche a certain number of years ago, that they know there's a seed there. They know there's been a yearning to like express themselves greater in the world beyond what they've already done. No matter how admirable and brilliant and respectful and amazing and sacred their expression has been up until this point, they know there's more. Yet they're listening to you, and they might listen to me, and they might listen to other guys that have, done the whole thing, broke free, fucking like released it, cut the chains, and off to go, riding off into the sunset. Yet there'll be a portion of guys that are like, yeah, but I've got family commitments. yeah, but I've got a mortgage to pay. Yeah, but, and to a level, they can be quite valid or seem
Mhm.
intensely valid in a moment. From your experience of what you've been going through, and from you've been tapping in with other guys, other women around the world that have made massive paradigm shifts in their lives, from going from sort of caught in the rat race, corporate world, etc., 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 to living their fullest expression in life and making money from it, helping keeping the wheels, their economic viability going on. What words of what insights have you, or hacks, or I hate the word hacks, but like, what insights or tools or processes are there available from your experience that could help ground these men now that have this volcano of potentiality there, but it's in the face of shit that I have a reality that I need to keep going? Are there any ideas there to help serve these guys?
Yeah, so we're like, we as human beings are always changing. Like, the only constant in our lives is change. So anytime there is stagnation in our lives, like, I understand when you mean like a father who has children and who has a wife is literally, is he serving himself first? Because he might be serving his family first, but is that serving the family as a whole? Is that even serving the people around him? Like, he might be providing financial support, but like, children might look at their father and go, is my daddy happy? And that might actually be sending a message to the children that, oh, sometimes you have to do what you don't like to end up doing what you love. But sometimes there's no vision of doing what you love. It's literally, we wait till we're 65 and the children are out, and then we start to live our lives. But that could be too late right then. You know, we can start our lives from there, but like, why not? Because we could die like tomorrow. Like, something could just happen, and I always have that grounded perspective that like, that things could just happen. So why not just do it now? And like, when somebody just goes all in, it's like, you will get back immediately all that stuff. So if a father is working an office job and he's always aspired to be a chef, then work in the office job, continue to get the money, but work in the background to fulfill that passion as well. Start to take cookery courses, start to go to retreats where they're doing cooking. Literally take action, start finding the spaces to do it. Because you're not serving anybody when you come home and maybe feeling miserable, and your wife goes, oh, will you do this? And the father's like, oh, I'm tired and all this stuff. The reason they're tired is because they're not emotionally fulfilled. So if they're emotionally fulfilled, doing that passion on the side and then make it their full-time job, then that can provide the safety for yourself and for your wife. And you'll know deep down that this is the moment now for me to take the leap. Like, I've done all the cooking course, I've got certified. Now I'm going to look for a job as a chef. And that might mean you have to quit your job, and you might have a few weeks of feeling like, oh, I'm financially unstable right now and I don't know what's going to happen for me and my family. But it's like, majority of families will support you as a provider, that you can do it because you've done it for so many years. So why would the pattern change that you would lose everything? It's like, you're going towards something you love again. And the thing is, you've got that safety net that you can return back to doing an office job. So it's like especially in Western society, like I've seen in, like, I've been to Colombia and places like this where they literally they work like a dog for like 10,000 pesos a day, and they are so happy. 10,000 pesos, €3 per day, and like, they are so emotionally fulfilled, just providing for their family, doing that. That could be their fulfillment. That could be their level. Like, even somebody who came over here, who used to be a good friend of mine, his dream was just to come over here and be a security guard, because he overcame so much to get to that place, to come over here and do that. So people are taking risks all the time, and things are changing all the time. And especially for us, because like, we are, like, to be honest, we are very privileged in this society. Like, we can walk into job after job after job. And especially for somebody in an office job, what is really, when you ask yourself the risks that you are taking, and like, fulfilling yourself in that way automatically inspires people around you to be an example for them. And it comes down to, like, as well as all the stuff that I've just said, but it goes back to those 3 words of, I need help. People will help you. People are literally, when you reach out and you ask, there are people there who will do it for you. Like, I do videos as well, and somebody who comes to me and says, I need help doing a video, I'm like, of course, come on, let's do it, you know? Because I really want to help people to do that. Like, if they're passionate in video, like I'm currently looking for a videographer at the moment because I don't want to take the video, I just want to edit the video. So like for somebody to come and ask me, oh, how do I do this? Because they might have a passion for doing that. I'm like, wait, his capacity for doing this will be way more than me because he's actually passionate about it. So then I inspired him to do that. And then he becomes a videographer for himself and then serves the people around him, serves me and helps me in like getting out my message and all these things. So it's all reciprocal. So it's finding that passion within ourselves by slowing down, even by acknowledging what happened. What did I love to do as a child? Like, what is that inner child essence of me that allows me to express myself and be fulfilled? Finding those things, finding those spaces, meditating on them in different spaces like this allows you to embody it and serve yourself and your family or your friends and all these people around you. So like, I understand like fully that it is a risk to let go of these things. Like me quitting my job, that's not just like, yeah, quit my job today. That was like a long process of me being able to like acknowledge and fears and rejection and all this stuff, being self-employed and all this stuff. And only when I was able to do that, that now I'm able to embody and really trust what I'm feeling. And it's funny that I'm actually speaking to myself right now. That's allowing me to just progress forward in my life and reaffirm myself that I can do this.
Yeah, I absolutely love that response. And like what jumps out of me is the putting the focus on, you know, questioning the validity of the story that you're playing to yourself. You know, you're serving your family by just providing, but you know, that emotional impact, the emotional serving. Because I think every single guy wants to serve his queen, wants to serve his wife, wants to serve his kids, his community, his highest self, like whatever he, like his happiest self, his most powerful self, his most thriving self. If you reflect down and like what you've been saying, you've said it a few times in the course of this conversation, slow down. Any guy who slows down, you know, to live and die without regret. If we slow down, we want to be giving out that best self, that highest self. So it's just that emotional impact on the people around you. But the amazing, I think, highway to freedom that you're laying down is also this beautiful idea that, you know, you don't have to jump today. You don't have to, you know, oh shit, man, I've had this like seed of, you know, I'm going to be like, I use your example, I'm going to be like the best chef in the world, and shit, what if I really listen into what Fergus is saying and Mark is saying and like the world is saying and what my feelings are saying, I gotta leave my job today. Oh shit, how can I speak with my wife? How can I tell my kids? How can I talk to the bank? I just turn up to the job tomorrow. Of course it's gonna seem easier. But like I think that highway to freedom, the freedom of expression that you're putting down that I love so much is just take a little step. That big final last minute, oh shit, you know, ground in, hold the wife, hold the kids by the hands, I'm going all in. That could be like 1,000 steps ahead of you. There could be that online course. It could be that chat with Fergus, that chat with Mark. It could be listening to a few extra podcasts. New Earth Kings, best #1 up and coming men's podcast in the world. Yes, just plugging unapologetically. Fucking powerful shit to be listening to, guys, if you want that seed to flourish. I'm learning too to just stop the whole modesty. It's fucking this is my dharmic drive. But you know, I too reflect. You know, the whole podcast thing. My journey, this podcast, I've fucking known like about 2 years, two and a half years. I'd probably like be more embarrassed to say it could be even longer ago that the idea of a podcast, getting incredible guys coming forward, and like there again, like you said about your shift, Fergus, like the feeling of inadequacy. Who the hell am I to actually? Who am I to actually hold a powerful space for powerful guys like you that are doing incredible stuff in life? And yet it didn't happen. The final time when I said, okay, let's just do this, a couple of weeks ago, that was preceded by so many little mini things. I had so many little, you know, webinars, so many little, you know, snippets online of listening to podcast ideas, listening into podcasts. What are they doing? What are the good ones doing? What are the ones that just not there? That was a shit podcast. But what have they done? This has just been slowly working away at my mind eroding, letting just slip away and dissolve the sort of self-limiting, the upper limiting thoughts, ideas, the feelings, and then just eventually it just seemed like the most natural thing. And I'm fucking loving this. But it's like, any guy, as you say, is just, what's the emotional impact? And then just take little tiny steps.
Yeah, because people can actually see because you said that you started the podcast, but our lives can sometimes look like a highlight reel. Like, oh, this is when I took the leap of setting up the podcast. But it's the reason why that highlight or that part of our lives feels so strong and powerful when you say it is because there's so much stuff that built up to that. There's so many things you went through to set up the podcast. So our life is not a highlight reel. Our life is full of all these things that happen along the journey. And actually, by taking the step and taking that little small step to actually go, oh, I'm going to just do this cookery class, or I'm just going to fry up these garlic potatoes like I've never done before. That can be that's a massive step, just as much as the milestone that got you to being a chef. Like, those parts allow you to be present, because a lot of the time it's about being as present as you can be. And when you're in that flow, when you're in that passion and creativity and you're congruent with how you feel, then things start to happen around you. And we see we see on social media and stuff like this, like, people will usually only put up the things that happened that were amazing in their lives. But it's like, is it the truth? Is it actually who that person is? And I've had a really interesting time with social media, in that I used to do it for other people to let them know how I'm doing and what I feel, but I'm not doing it for myself. And now I only post when I'm basically speaking to myself without any expectation of likes and all these things. And social media has become like a mad jungle right now. And my life is not a highlight reel. My life is literally, I go through stuff just as much as anybody else. I'm not a super God and enlightened being that's doing all these things. I'm just a human being who's wearing a black t-shirt and who has a haircut, all this stuff. I'm just like you, just like everybody else listening to this. And the only difference between me is that I've been able to take risks and I'm moving towards what I'm doing, but I literally don't know what's going to happen in the future. And the amazing thing about the future is that it's always a surprise. I'm not going to have expectations of what's going to happen. My imagination can run free. Yeah, I'm going to be the most powerful speaker in the world and all these things, but I don't know. Maybe it sounds good for me to say that, but I literally only don't know what's going to happen, because that gives me a lot of excitement then for the future, for what's going to happen in my life.
Fergus, just listening in there, and one topic that tuning in with you just as your growth, but just your life philosophy, your teaching philosophy, is the idea of embodiment, because I think it's just so core here. It's we've grown up in a system of education which is mental learning, intellectual learning, packed a head full of ideas. And I put my hand up. I fucking I've escaped. I've been an escape artist, hiding out in the, keep learning. At some point, I'll just be brilliant. Keep learning, which was just packing information in. And one thing I see and I've heard so deeply in your approach is the idea of embodiment, embodied learning. It's not so much about packing 40 bucks of information into your head. It's actually maybe just even taking one concept, but embodying it so profoundly that it becomes a part of you. Could you just explore a little bit of that, the distinction in a way, as a way of life, how you live that out, embodied learning versus sort of intellectually packed learning?
Yeah, so it happens a lot of the way in the way that you practice what you preach and putting theory in practice. So I used to read loads of self-help books like Tony Robbins, Tim Ferriss, all these people, high performers. I was like, oh, their life's great, but I won't do anything. And what switched it for me is when I started to do all the things that are being said on all these books, just literally practice them. And they can sound really good when we hear them and all these things that happen, but a lot of the time, okay, it's the space a lot of the time that provides us the way to do it. So if I set up a space for me to do this, then I can do it. If I'm reading a self-help book on the Lewis or on the train, I can read, oh yeah, Tony Robbins says do this and do all this stuff, and I'm going to do that. You look around you and you're in a train. I don't know if you can even do those things right there and then. So find this, like I'm exploring space right now and the way that spaces can change, and set up the space for yourself to do it. And for me, is like there was no space for me to talk about connecting with others and all these and being theory and things like this. And this is why I work so well with my business partner Miles, my really great friend, is that a lot of the time he looks into the theory of it and he studies all the logic. He's like, yeah, all this stuff really good. And then what happens is that I shape an exercise around what he's talking about. That and like that can be an exercise in a retreat, in a workshop, whatever it is. And like that's the real value of having these spaces. And in Ireland, and this is a big reason why I'm departing Ireland very soon, is that there just is not enough of these spaces right now. Like literally, me and Miles looked around and we were like, where's the spaces where we can connect with people and talk radically and honestly and consciously and like act like a child and do these things and like actually move all the patterns within ourselves. There wasn't spaces, so we had to set them up. We had to literally create them. So if you can't find the space, create the space yourself. Like people who do yoga, were they just sitting back and waiting for somebody to come in yoga? No, they just go, okay, I'm going to set up a yoga practice in my community. That's how yoga started to sprout up. So either find the space or create the space yourself. And that allows you to practice and embody the teachings that you have. And when you're with people who are practicing and who are in flow and who are meditating and who are doing these types of things, even playing a sport, like doing those things, and you're in flow with the people who you vibe with, automatically you're practicing what you preach. You might find that that information you read on the book last week is coming to you right now in that conversation you're talking to, because the space is doing the work for you and not just you trying to act like, oh, I'm at home now and I'm going to try and do this breathing exercise. And like, even in my house, I've done bioenergetics like outside in like a lot of different instances. I have to break through so many bars, all my neighbors going like, is that Fergus shouting in the backyard? Like jumping up and down and doing grounding meditation. And literally like all those feelings come up. But I'm literally like, this is more important because I can think about the people that are around me, looking at me doing this breathing exercise and all these things. But I'm here to serve myself first. And I'll do it because it feels right for me to do it. And of course, there'll be resistance to doing that. Like those exercises that you'll be reading in books and like breathing and all these different things. Of course, you're going to have resistance. That's part of the journey. That's what makes it worthwhile for you to do those things. So I'll literally just like a lot of time, like go into a space, I'll embody the concept so much. I'll embody the exercise. Like every exercise I teach, I am a part of it. There is no separation between like, oh, you're going to do this exercise. It's not like me looking at you doing it. I'm like, yeah, I love this exercise. I want to do it as well. And I like to embody it and be an example of the exercise so much that people break down their barriers and just go, it's okay for me to do it because look at him, he's doing it as well. And that's what I love to do all the time.
Beautiful. I can't help I can't help but laughing when you say about testing the space. You go outside and you do your different exercises and physical moves and like sort of shouting and stuff. I learned an Irish version of the haka from New Zealand Maori Maori shaman. And who have we ended up moving in beside? Only a lady, beautiful English lady. She came here. She retired here to just the peaceful calm of the Roscommon countryside. She has a severe hearing hypersensitivity issue where literally, like, if a dog barks, her partner speaking, like if he puts on music a little bit too loud, she puts earplugs in. I'm outside doing the freaking haka, so I was like, it's just like going at it. Yeah, it can be quite challenging. I haven't done it so much out of respect. I sort of try to keep it indoors. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it is a really important thing, which is just that embodiment. It does take like creating that space. I do get the idea. You know, it's like, I suppose using the chef example type thing, you know, like cook the thing, but cook it for people that'll appreciate it. You know, find a space that, you know, set up that sacred space for whatever it is that you want to bring into the world. Find your tribe, find that coach, find that friend, find those people that, you know, relatively, they'll challenge you, okay, they'll give you good feedback, but they'll support you. They'll support you, and like they're going to be happy to sort of allow you that space to have that experience and support you on your upward climb. Fergus, part of New Earth Kings is, the king archetype, and you sort of alluded to it, but I really want to consciously draw it out. Even though the future, we have no idea. We could be dead and gone tomorrow, and hopefully today would be like just another spectacular self-expression. But let's say playing into the idea that, you're going to live for another 80, 90, 100 plus years, full health, full radical expression. Let's put it in the context of 10 years. The king archetype is very much about that vision. Playfully also allowing the universe, it'll show up whatever, without any expectation. But from what you currently know about yourself, from what you currently are gifting the world with this upsurgence of enthusiasm and bringing your gifts to the work through retreats, etc. Where's in your wildest dreams, where is that 10-year dream? What has Fergus Murtagh achieved in the world? What have you brought to the world? How has the world changed through your gifting your unapologetic highest self to it?
Wow. I'm going to slow down for this question. That was big. So for me, I'm like a huge thing that I see in the next 10 years is that the co-connection method that I'm developing at the moment with my friend Miles is like, I really want to bring that into therapy, like to go to be as the number one trauma therapy to basically moving through any emotions, any insecurities, all these things, to be able to connect with yourself and connect with other people in the way that you love to do and manifest those people. So for me, I really want this to be a worldwide therapy that people can learn and get trained in so they can help other people in their community. Because like I am one person and you are one person, but it's making the space so unavoidable that people are just like, of course, this works so much for all these people. And like for me, like if I influence one person, I could be influencing another 6 at the same time. And when I keep doing that step by step, person by person, I see in 10 years, I see a massive shift in consciousness about emotional intelligence. If I keep going the way I'm going, I think that a lot of people are going to start becoming aware of this. And it starts with social interaction with me. When I continually socially interact with people, like even when I go abroad now, I'm not using my phone for a month. I'm going to return to the traditional way of relating so that I ask for directions and all these things. And by me doing that, and I feel that if I can engage in conversation with people, then they can automatically increase their awareness about their own lives and consciousness. And that multiplied in 10 years will be a lasting impact, I think, on this world. And that's something that I'm really passionate about doing. And I'm so delighted and grateful that I'm doing it with Miles, because me and him have been on such a journey of like for 8 years of doing this and like trying to get people to do it. And now we're finally in a place that we can ship it across the world and teach everybody else about it. And that's something I'm really passionate and excited, and it fulfills my heart so much to see that happen.
Wow. I'm actually goosebumps all over just because knowing your story and actually just knowing the co-connection journey that you've had, and just seeing the feedback of people. Like there's been, it's the 3 co-connection retreats now, but what a powerful journey. That's like quite a number of people. You've been expanding on the numbers and just upscaling that onto like what you literally say is that world stage. And like what a prime time. It's the real essence, and this is why I invited you on. It's the real essence of New Earth Kings is guys like yourself, regular guys. And like we're all regular guys. Ultimately we're just regular human beings, but like regular guys just going with that beautifully extraordinary dreams. But it's to make extraordinary dreams like that just ordinary. Even the word extraordinary as I use, it's like, no, fuck that. It's just an ordinary dream. It's your dream, but going with that, knowing and hearing the feedback, the success is there. The co-connection retreat, the co-connection method, it's already changing, transforming lives very powerfully. And it's so exciting to hear. And I really wanted to draw that out, that you're going on the world stage. I really take the intentionality, and everybody listening in, and guys, like just those listening in, the man in front of you, it just sort of leads me to the next one. The man in front of you, Fergus Murtagh, is just, I invited him on because just my heart, my soul, everything gets what he's bringing into the world. Fergus mentioned I've worked with him, but like it's so easy to work with somebody that's just really so passionate and bring that in. I want to just ask Fergus, the guys that are listening in, be it, just in the upcoming days, weeks, months ahead, could be listening to it in a couple of years' time, I don't know, but anybody listening in that resonates deeply with your presence, with your co-connection ideas, with your embodiment, with all these beautiful ideas, or maybe just your essence, that just resonate with you for some unknowable reason, how can they track you down online? Where can they find you? Where can they connect in with you, sir?
So best way to connect in with me is through my Instagram. So my Instagram is just fergus.murtagh. And then the Instagram for co-connection is co-connection_method. And there's a way to book in just like 15-minute call for me on my website as well, fergusmurtagh.com, and you get all the information about all the things that I do. And a lot of times I see that like a website can show a certain amount, but they can't show like really what you're gonna do when you talk to me. It's like very different experience. So I would just say that like you can jump on 15 minutes and just have a chat, whatever you feel, you can voice it to me, and I'm very open that way. And it could be a call that could maybe change the way that you're seeing your own life and maybe allow you to embody more of what you love in that life. So those are the two platforms that I use: is Instagram, fergus.murtagh, and my website is fergusmurtagh.com.
Beautiful.
And if you're in Thailand, I'm going to be there for the next 3 months. So
for the first month, you can't connect in with him because he's not going on his phone. He's asking for directions. So if you want to connect in with Fergus Murtagh, go in the next month. Go to Thailand and make yourself look like you know where you can send a guy, and you might meet him there. But for beyond that month, Fergus Murtagh, brother, great friend, it's been such an honor and privilege to have you on, sir. Just thank you so much on behalf of myself, personally running this podcast behind the scenes, but also on behalf of everybody else, and like the deep benefit that your words, your embodied courage of just like living out that dream in life and just coming on. Thank you so much for that, sir.
Thank you, Mark. I really appreciate being on and speaking to myself for an hour and a half, and then you listening to me speaking to myself. It's been really good. I appreciate it.
Honor and privilege, sir. Guys, that has been episode number 4. Absolute epic conversation. I've enjoyed every last single minute of that, as I'm sure you have indeed yourselves. Just like I can't encapsulate, I try to crystallize what like the message was. It's impossible. All the different guys coming on, I don't know how to crystallize it. I just ignorantly go with like what sort of throws up for me, which is just tap into that embodied essence, the energy. I think that just speaks it all with Fergus. But I tap into that idea of, just think of the impact. Look at your life now. Look at the impact that emotionally you're having on people around you. And, if it's anything less than just love and joy and your highest, most humorous, spacious self, that is who you are. That's like, I know you to be that. I might have never met you. That's who you are. That childlike free essence. If there's anything underneath that, just start taking a look at that long term. Look at the impact on your wife, on your partner, on your kids, on your community, and just slow down. Fergus was saying that, just slow down enough. Go and retreat, maybe a co-connection retreat. Just slow down, connect in with Fergus, slow down, go for a walk, just some person time, so you can slow down and see what is that impact that you want to have long term. And then the other idea, like so powerful, is, whatever emerges, you don't need to panic. It's fine. Your greatest version, your greatest epic gift could be a gift on a local level, a world revolution. It doesn't actually matter. It's your sacred gift. You don't have to panic like a rabbit in the headlights today and make that, jump off the Grand Canyon today. What Fergus say, take little steps on a consistent daily basis. And what you will feel is this upsurge of momentum, slowly but surely, indelibly, irreversibly taking over your entire being, that you will eventually get to the point where Fergus, like himself, after a long process, he leaves the job, but it's a long process. Mark Usher, New York Kings, it's a long process. But the feeling of his exhilaration, of unapologetic self-expression, bring your highest gift to the world. That's what the New Earth Kings movement is about. That's what this podcast is about. It's unapologetic. If it feels uncomfortable, it's meant to be uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for us doing it. It's uncomfortable for Fergus coming on today. But discomfort is beautiful. Your greatest gift is beyond that bridge of fear. We invite you to take many steps across that bridge today. Guys, love you lots. Have a blessed, beautiful, wonderful day. Chat to you again soon. Take care. Bye.
Yeah.